Get this.
So we are live.
Hi guys, good morning. I hope you guys are doing fine. So take this opportunity to welcome you guys in this workshop, which is being conducted by our own faculty, Hitansu. So he'll be talking about live looping on Logic Pro and Ableton Live, and he'll have a lot many things to share about. So I'll just like Hitansu, over to you. And guys, one small request. So if you have any questions, you can unmute and ask directly instead of dropping it in the chat, so that becomes easy. So yeah, that's it. Over to you, Hitansu.
Thank you. Thank you, Atal. First of all, a very good morning to everyone, and good to see a lot of people out here. And all of you have been waiting for this workshop, and this is something which you are looking for. So this is something where I would say one thing, that is, this workshop is for. I mean, let me just get in straight to you. So this workshop is mostly those who are really wanted to do live performances. It could be a stage show, it could be anything you can just bring up. Whether it is a band performing, where they generally wants to have some samples of the music to go cue in, right? And and couple of other things which you do as well, like let's say for example you want to do someone is performing and he wants to do some karaoke on the back, and couple of music transitions are there in the music, and you just wanted to play those music on that times. So those are the kind of examples. So this is something for those people, those who are really keen on towards it and they want to do it. So let's get started. Let's get into the point first of all. And again, a warm welcome to everyone. Thanks for coming to this workshops, and it's definitely going to be good for you. I hope so. Let's go ahead. All right. So let me just share my screen first. Okay. So that's what the workshop is all about, right? Looping with Ableton and Logic. So apparently these are the two softwares. Apart from that, there are a lot of softwares out there you can use it for. Like FL also have come a lot of exciting features. So the point here is whether a piece of music you play, or whether an instrument you play it, or whether you by yourself, you are a singer, you are singing and you are streaming yourself, or you are in somewhere in the stage show, you're doing something. That's what it's all about. Or as I told you the example, what if there is a band who is actually working? And first of all, I'm audible clearly to everyone. Just have a counter cross check. I want to do it, then I'll go ahead. I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So let's go ahead. So what is it? So I have couple of things here. That is a couple of features in both the softwares. This is what here for you, that is Ableton and Logic. It's a strange thing to hear that Logic has given something. It's not strange, it's like a very good exciting news as well. Those who are the Logic user here, or those who are using, apparently is watching this streaming right now. So the first thing which has been introduced to in a digital domain, there are a lot of loopers. Basically, what do you mean by looping? Let's get into that point in a simple format, in a simple manner. Something, it has to be a repetitive manner. It's a very simple word, or it's a simple sentences. What exactly the repetitive manner? For example, rhythms, or let's say rhythms, or let's say drums, or let's say a groove. A groove is a combination of drums plus bass, or plus sometimes arpeggiator, sometimes chord progressions of a pad or a piano together, all they going grooving. Over that you can shake your head or you can just dance on that. That's called groove, and it's the backbone of any song, right? Now pick up any genre or any style of music, you get into that, whether it is electronic music, whether it is commercial pop, or whether it is anything as such, until unless you reach to something contemporary or let's say opera. So that's a different whole ball game over there, right? Then before, back in those days, how the looping things happened, and the first band in the entire whole world, who is the first electronic band. I always giving these examples to everyone, that Kraftwerk. So how these people they have come across, and looping is such word has been developed. I generally believed on guitar looping, mostly with the processor or the looper, or slowly built up, and that is when synthesizer built it up. And back in those 70s and 80s, when MIDI protocol started, sequencer generated, and sequencer and looping is somehow the same job over there, but they have little different rule. That shortly I'll be telling you after some time. Then slowly moving on, we are into the computer era, and since the digital domain developed, we are into a lot of softwares developed. And since the inception of DAW, digital audio workstation, things become possible to have everything, those kind of hardware emulation in the software, right? Whether it is recording tools, whether it is processing tool, whether it is anything, everything we are getting within our piece of computer, so that you can be any of the corner in the world and you can just start making music out there. So now the world has changed since last 2 years. We are into a different turnout in the entire whole thing. We are in the outbreak where live performance become indoor, and lots of artists out there, you better know then, this is what is happening down the line, that all we are doing live performances and stuff. So now then, these are the two major software apparently, but before that also, as I told you, a couple of softwares that are there, and Ableton is one of those software which is completely meant for real-time performance. Okay, now what do you mean by real-time performance? Is it somewhere it is connecting to production, whether it is connecting to one-man army? Now what do you mean by a one-man army? It's all about one single-handed person has handling his equipment, his entire whole instruments. And we have seen a lot of examples out there in YouTube, that one person singing, playing guitars and piano and stuff. So this is not new to you, it's very simple, and all of us we know about it. So let's get started now about these two softwares. Apparently I'm presenting you Ableton and Logic. Now why Logic? Shortly we'll get into that. For you, next is I have little explanation about what is looping. So you can see that I've written pedals, guitar processors, workstations. Now what do you mean by pedals? Where this is what something you might have seen lots of guitarists they hold up, right? Most of you are here right now must be guitarists here, and you better can understand this. What is it? It's a loop station which creates and having its memory in it, and you can see a couple of knobs here, memories, rhythm on and off, tap tempo. All right, these are the main key feature for a looper. Now what do you mean by looping? As I already told you, that it is a repetitive mode of piece of music which is on the time, on the bar, on the pace. Along with it follows the music theory, which is time signature. All right, now all this couple of factors jumble up together gives you this theory called loop, and it is in a repetitive manner. So it is a kind of sort of sequencer. Now how exactly it is become a sequencer, I'll tell you shortly. Now you can see that there is a tap tempo. So for example, you start with some music and you have something in your mind, and a guitarist is doing some plug-in. He start playing that by tapping the tempo, because he already has the pace or the BPM or the speed of the music. If this is what 1, 2, 3, 4, he is exactly going to tap it on the tap tempo. So this particular parameter, it is there in everywhere, whether you hit into any sequencer, whether you hit into any kind of looper, or whether you hit into any kind of software as well, which has the capabilities of looping. Next is rhythm. Now this is something which you generally consider what is on and off. So generally you want to play back or you don't want to play back. And memories is something which it saves or numbers of patterns that you have created. Sometimes it goes like, if this is what my pace, 1, 2, 3, 4, and in between I want to go like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. This is one pattern. With the same pace, I want to go half the time. So it is gonna be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Such a very low BPM. So it's exactly half the time. Like that, numbers of patterns, several patterns, you can create it, and this is something where it's all about the guitarist. He goes with his own kind of a plugin. So shortly I'll show you all the examples. So this is the work of basically the loop station, and then he presses on the boss, which has written called boss. He presses that, it starts looping, which is generally controlled by the foot or the fit. So it really helps. Now what exactly looping helps it to you? You want something rhythm on the back so that you can sing or you can play some lead of music on melody and so, right? That is called loop. That is where it actually helps you to go some rhythmatic pattern on the back. On the top of that, you can sing, you can play the melody. That's what it's all about. Another one, which is generally you get it as a sequencer board along with like mostly you might have seen guitar processor. This is pedals. Now pedals and guitar processor, there are two different things, okay? Pedal is more of, you do the combination into it. And why I'm emphasizing on this particular thing, because this is when the inception gone into a whole lot of a major world, and where a lot of things happening down in terms of looping world. So this is one of the guitar processor. Like that, there is a lot of guitar processor out there, those who gives you the option for looping. So looping is a major tool nowadays since last 2 decades. Another one, now let's forget about guitarist. Come back, those who are pianist, performer, or let's say back in those days, what was happening for people, those who are singing karaoke or live performances, they used to have this kind of device. This is Aero's looping stereo. Like this, there is a lot of workstation out there in the market. I remember when I was just a kid, and I was seeing people, they have workstations that is called sample player, right? You might have also heard about this term. A workstation is a whole combination of sampler, synthesizer, looper, along with keys, along with other controls in it. Over here you can see this is Aeros, which is 6-track recorder, and this 6-track recorder has some time division and has some kind of a pie chart you can see on the left side. Each of this track you can select it, and all the parameters you see it over here. You can see that play, stop, loop volume, then individual track you can see like 1 2 3 4 5 6. So 6-track recorder, and one after another you can switch into all this, then you can just play them together. That's how it is. So it is like back in those days when computer was not the scene, and when you have always on devices together. So things become possible for people to go around as a band, and they start doing their own kind of looping, and as a band they sync up together and they do it, and there's a lot of practice involved in it. It is not just like I'm coming randomly and I'm start doing something, because this is, I always see this, that this is all pre-designed, it is all rehearsed, well rehearsed, and this has always been practiced for numbers of times. Looping is kind of that, because you generally get into those entire technicalities. Along with the technicalities, you being yourself, you are a performer, you're performing, right? So those are the process are involved. So I'm being performing, and I'm gonna focus on my loopers, that which section of the track is going on, or which instrument which is playing. Then after that, what things has to come in after several minutes, and that's how generally happens while you do a performances. So altogether, this is a theory. It's all about looper. Now back into like our kind of trend, and we are right now into digital domain, and we are mostly in the computer, and we generally do live looping or performances and stuff. So whenever you might have seen a lot of performances, let's talk about India, let's talk about Indian artists. Always we talk about foreign artists, always we talk about major artists out there. Whenever any live performance happens in India, you would not see people they do completely live. It is for sure a piece of music or a signature sound of the music. For example, you can pick up any random popular song. that song generally carries some kind of music on the go, on the fly, and which is generally the signature sound of that particular music. And when these artists, they do the live performances, they do not rely on completely on the live scenario. They definitely need the same kind of music has to play on the back, so that other instrumentalists would not carry that load. Rather, they will improvise something on the live performances. That is one of the major concern for looping. Now I would definitely talk about boiler rooms. Now I would definitely talk about lots of out there, like, there are a lot of community. There is a lot of uh, you know as I like boiler rooms kind of stuff, which you might have seen in a different scenario. The best thing which I would say is when hip hop genre generally happens, and you've been doing those kind of DJing on the back, and a rapper used to perform, the loop has to go and go and go and go. That's how generally things happens. All right. So this is all about altogether theoretical knowledge. So now, need to get the difference between two things before I get into or dive into my sessions. Basically, there is no session at all. It's just that I'm gonna show you everything from the scratch. Modular versus linear recording. Linear recording, something we are dealing with the traditional recording style. That means this is generally you deals with when you have linear recording from left to the right. I have my Ableton screen in front of you. I hope you all can see it. So this is generally the traditional recording style from left to the right? And you have a time ruler which is dependent on that. It doesn't do any kind of cyclic patterns in it. Or same goes if I just get into Logic. Same goes over here as well. Logic is something where you can easily understand things goes bar, beats and division text. If I get into something like secondary ruler, you see the time domain as well. Now the same feature, you are getting it in the DAW right now. Logic has introduced this feature that is called live loop grid mode. The live loop grid mode, it's all about performing real-time performances. You get cells, and instead of over here you get bar and beats, you just see individual cells here. And all these individual cells, it's not completely dependent on time ruler. So that means it is irrespective of whatever the time which you are dealing with. It is dependent on what is the length of your music which you perform. To make it very simplified, I have Ableton for you. Now in Ableton, what happens is you got clip grids, clip slots. This is something which we all have into it, but this is a workshop mostly for those who even don't know anything. So just bear with all this. So whenever we get into individual clip grids, this is also, it is a kind of idea that I am either going to perform something audio or I'm either going to perform something MIDI. Whatever it is, they have the same kind of features within clip slots, and individual clip slots carry some musical data, MIDI or audio. Then what next? You get always some kind of transport controllers in it. And what is a transport controls? Generally, that is our traditional transport controls: play, stop, recording. Those are the three major buttons you generally get. So that is what, when individual track you go, you see these are turning out to a circular button, but other things you can see there are squares over here. The moment I click on that, it's become circular. Why? Because it is ready to record something. And the moment I click on this, it start capturing the audio like this. And if I just do not stop, double click on the cell, it will start keep on recording until unless you stop. It will recording that much of bar. But apparently, since I have set to 1 bar, that is why it is keep on recording 1 bar. That's how the looping features. So when I was talking about this, guys, over here, this one. Over here you see this arrows. Korg, Roland and World of, those are the companies been making sequencers and workstations like this. And you see that 6 tracks, because in DAW we have numbers of tracks to be created and to be performing, right? But this is just a 6 track, and it has a flashback memory on the back, and it saves everything inside. If I would talk about typical workstations, and you get a lot of options, bunch of options. Let me just get into. If I use, let's say, Chord, Kronos, there are a lot of brands out there. I'm just showing you a couple of them. And within this keyboard, you got the track controls, the navigations. There's a dial-up, you see it. And this dial-up is whole meant for, capturing the track, selecting the instruments, start recording your track in it. And all they are also just like a digital audio workstation. They have the RAM inside, which is a temporary memory capturing all your whole data and to process a lot of instruments in it. Then also capturing your entire whole thing in a flash drive. On the back panel, if there is a back panel, let me just see images. So over here you see there is some kind of pen drive options or flash drive as well. Even your memory card chip, you can also insert that. You can save everything. So this is one of the handy thing for keyboardist, for organ player, on pianist, keyboardist, live performer, those who are more into keyboard, those who are more into, like, within one particular whole bunch of box, you get everything in it. Now what happens when we get into software? You have navigation in it. The same thing, we get browser here. Now this is your Ableton Live, but in the screen you get a lot of dividation in it. Everything is bifurcated. You see the browser, you get the instruments. Down section you see the inserts. This section is your working mode, and this 2 modes you can alter. That is, generally Ableton has 2 modes, arrangement and session views. Now shortly I get into the theory behind this, that what is the relation between the session view and the arrangement view. Same goes for even Logic. If I get into the session view, which is here in the Logic called live loop grid mode, and you can switch in between. This is a switch. You can see my cursor is, where is it actually? These are 2 modes, and this is my general mode, that is your general arrangement window or editing window or recording window. Then the other button which I clicked, that is called live loop grid. Alright, so what brings in this entire whole live loop grid and as playing loop back these individual clip slots. Same goes for Logic. Cells, in Logic they call it cells. So in the cells you get the recording options to turn on, to turn off, to play and stop back, and to playback mode. Couple of things which I'll be telling you by giving you a list of parameters. Generally you get it in a sequencer or in a looper. So now over here you see couple of clips. They are already having some musical data. For example, here you see the rim, the drums. Let me just interchange the positions of the drums and the rim. Double click on that, you see the MIDI roll in it. So conclusion, forget about this again, and going back to my image, over here you see the arrows. You can consider this is one track. It carries numbers of bars in it. For example, you are a person having 20 bar of music, and which is nothing but a looping stuff, which is going on as a rhythmatic element on the back. Could be guitar, could be percussion, could be your anything. Everything, it's records inside it. You can see the back panel slightly, if you can. I don't know how exactly you can see it or not. The back panel has having audio ins in it. So for example, there is a percussion. You can put your TRS or TS, your instrument cable on the back, start recording your instrument. It captures everything. Within it you get quantization option, you get everything in it, and this all 4 buttons does everything. So this is just one of the example arrows, but there is Korg, there is Roland, as I told you back. Same option but you get it here in a DAW like this, where Ableton, it carries everything, transport controls, play, stop, and in between the cells you get the play, record and stop. So the theory behind this right now, let's come back to the third point. which is this. As I told you, linear recording, modular. Now, what modular means? It's not like modular synthesis. Do not get into that. Modular recording, modular performance is generally what exactly it means. Anything which is going sequential, and it has been pre-programmed that what has to go next to the next. Because what happens if a song starts? Now let's get into a very simple example. There is an intro, all right. Then after that there is a chorus. If it is depends on if there is a root or there is a kind of a hook, there is a bridge, then there is sometimes in between you get the interlude that connects to your verse. A simple song, a simple pop song, that's the general structure. Then after that you get the outro. Now what is the outro which defines your song's ends? So such a numbers of sections in the song. Then again there is another kind of music which deals with electronic music or EDM, electronic dance music. Again, somehow electronic music is a little different but has also the same kind of follow-up. What is that? Anything that starts with little intro. If your music starts with a kick, which is a 4/5 like then the bass starts or any kind of arpeggiator starts, that is what your entire whole structure. That is you who is deciding altogether. And it goes one after another. So everything you perform accordingly, because what happens is in studio you do one after another. That is what your entire whole scenario is. What is live looping is? Live looping gives you, or it gives you kind of a knowledge, or it gives you kind of a practice to make music faster. It is not only meant for live looping, only meant for stage shows. It is also meant for studio recording. So you would see all those $1 billion producers out there sitting on the studio. They do not waste time on producing one particular kick or a pattern of music for the entire whole day. They keep on designing for the entire whole day. Then they keep on experimenting on the play, on the go. What exactly general traditional way we do it is we get into instruments. You keep on searching for that right kick and the right snare for the song, which is generally time taken. So the best way or the efficient way to work as a producer is this. What? Simple piano which gives you a melody cover and a simple kick and snare, probably 808, 707. Those are the names you mostly generally hear it. And later on you can probably design your own kick, or you can replace those samples, or you can replace those sounds, or probably you can replace the kick and the snare if you do not like it, of course, in later on scene. So that's how you generally do it. But musical structure has to be done first. So then what are the two sections are? First, you make your skeleton music, which has to be ready on the go. Second, you choose your elements. Then third, you make everything finalized. And anyways, something in terms of structure in your music, I mean, you have already finalized that I would definitely go like this. As a producer or as a composer who thinks about the production, definitely you would be thinking in all this. Then later on, the final stage is nothing but always you do some lot of changes into the song. So a simple example, whatever I explained, I'm going to give it to you. And this is one of the track which I always been showing on my example, because this has all the simple elements in it and it's really easy to understand. So let's get started with this. So this is Ableton software, and let me just tell you again, those who don't know about this and those who already know, please bear again. So over here, left side is all about your browser sections. You get instruments, drums, audio effects, media effects, and a lot of things which you generally get it. Those who are non-musicians, generally you can get into the clips and samples. You can create your own kind of beat pattern. And this is your working mode, that is session view. The down section is your processing mode, or generally you do also alter the window to media editor. So for example, there is some clips here, double click, you see this over here. Now, coming to the point, what is live performances and what is live looping? Imagine that this is what I've already designed, and this is one of the pattern, and this is my kick. I hope you can't, okay, I can't hear it. Give me a minute. there's a sample missing. Give me a minute. Let me relaunch my session again. Meanwhile, what you can do is you can drag in, because I'm not yet done to the live looping features, then what exactly the things which you need to understand. That is time signature. Let me launch this again. That is, how do you perform, and what is that key factor that you need to focus on, that is one after another. So that's what it's all about. Let me relaunch my session again, so immediately I can just show you. Meanwhile, any questions you can drop in, guys. Hope so this will work. Sorry. So the moment when I click on the play button, I hope all of you can just hear my Ableton screen. Just give a thumbs up. Okay. So now here what happens is, there is some clips here, there is a drums, there is a rim shot, there is a snare. Imagine that this is the entire whole structure that I want to start. What are the things you need to take care of? The first thing is, whenever you design some pattern, a cyclic pattern, because as I told you, these clip slots, they are irrespective of the time ruler, because here you do not see any kind of timeline which is going from left to the right? So whenever you do this, so one simple pattern which is going on. Now what's next? After this, I want to do something baseline into it. So I have a baseline also ready, because this is something I need to design before the thing, and since I'm in the Zoom right now, so I'm unable to do the live performances on the real time. So what I have given you, what I have given here apparently right now is a strong, entire whole strong structures is ready. So over here, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do a live performances just with the help of a cursor. And what exactly I'm focusing on is, what all my element has to go after 1 or 2 cycles, right? So for example, there's a drum, there's a rim shot also going like this, there's a snare also going like this, and there's a bass line which sounds like this. There's a pads as well. And these are all the elements. So since I'm on the Zoom again, I need to just do a couple of quick things, that is freezing the track, because freezing helps it to reduce down all the memory size. And you can see Ableton over here, there's a 11 version. It shows the CPU meter, which generally says that, hey, I'm loaded up completely. So kindly either you reduce down some elements, or convert your MIDI to audio, or probably you can freeze it. So freeze is always been a good option once you finalized your sound, once you have done your entire whole sound design into that particular instruments, and it is processed and those processes are finalized. Immediately just freeze it, just for the performance sake, because what happens in the performance is generally I'd never covers in the class. So this is something where I can cover in this workshop, that what exactly generally happens on the back. See, one DAW single-handedly is handling the processing, recording, and also playing back. And if you are in a typical kind of work process like streaming, DAW generally obeys not your sound card, the virtual sound card. Apparently Zoom it is. The Zoom is handling that. So for that reason, I need to do the freezing. This is one of the first thing which you need to do it. And if you are completely dealing with OBS, Soundcloud, and a lot of other things out there for the Windows and for the Mac, you can easily handle those latency issues in real time. So let's get freeze completely. Then what I'll show you is a couple of understanding that how time signatures really helps you in terms of not only playing a pattern but also it is helping you to perform one after another. So that is generally we consider called quantization, global quantization. Now what do you mean by global quantization? It is there in all the workstations. When you have numbers of tracks to play, either one after sequential order or together, global quantization is one of the very important parameter we need to deal with. So that in Ableton you get this here, and side by side I'll show you, of course, in Logic the same thing you get it, global quantization or quantization start at what bar, whether you wanted to have the quantization every time after 2 bars or 3 bars. Now what do you mean by all this? This is the main key factor. Generally people they get confused that what all this and how they work. So shortly I'll show you one after another. So as I told you, this drums, the rims, then the snare. So all I'm going to do is what? I'm going to do the drums playing first, then one of the arpeggiator, which is this. I'm going to play, I'm going to cue in, then I'm going to have the bass line, then I'm going to have these 3 pads, then I'm going to add on the rim shots in the snare. Now that is my whole lot of sequences. I'm here representing myself as a musician who is going to perform this for you, just for a sake of a couple of minutes. So how I'm going to start with? I'm going to get this. I'm going to start like 1, 2, 3. Exactly on the next cycles, which I'm going to do it. So 1, 2, 3, go. One, two, three. Bass line now. 1, 2. One, two, three. One and 2 and one more percussion. And a live performance. Whole lot of kind of live performance which you generally do it, and you start the beats and you start the bass line and you start everything, whatever you think of to go with, then you sing. This is generally the case when a singer, he does it everything. He himself as or herself as a musician, he does everything together. We all know this. This is something very general, and I remember when I was using a Sony Ericsson mobile, and I always give this example because Sony Ericsson is something, it gives you a kind of musicality in it. One of the flip phone, and you use those sequencers, you design your drums, you design your bass, already pre-designed stuff which you bring in and you drag and drop. The key factor for a successful producer is if he understand how to make the structure of a song, how the drop and the rise has to meet, whether what kind of music which you deals with, because rise and a drop, that always lifts off any listener to get into the music. Monotonous music, generally you deal with lot of experimental or let's say underground genre it deals with. The loop has to go on, then in between. So that's a different listening perspective. That's a different whole understanding to it, or religion to that particular music, or the entire whole culture to that music. But when you deal with simple music like this, which is having a lot of structures involved in it, lots of rise and falls involved in it, progressiveness, one of the music which we generally know. What do you mean by progressiveness? You would start with some melodic structures or chord progressions with a little slow pace, then you double the speed, then again somewhere you halve the speed, then again you double the speed, and so and so. That's how you generally deals with the music. Over here, what I'm doing is all about just a simple performance. Is those who are really here right now to understand what is live performance is all about. And this is one of the examples. Now the same thing which I would do it in Logic. Why and Logic I would definitely feel a little tedious because Logic is not yet ready to go for the live performances. To be very honest, I'm not here right now completely doing any kind of wrong marketing or anything as such, but I know that what is it. Definitely there is a drawback, there is a positive, there is a negative sides to it, but slowly they will definitely develop very shortly. Then it's become a more powerful software very soon. So now here there is no differentiation in terms of what DAW capabilities. Here the differentiation between what is there in Logic, what is there in Ableton. So now Logic has introduced the same live loop grade features here. What you see in the Ableton in a horizontal manner and a vertical manner, and over here you see all this I can play one together by hitting to that one scene. Alright, so let me stop, and every looper, the Ableton itself is a looper, you generally consider that. So what you get it, there is a master control for the entire whole clip slots over here. There is a lot of clip slots in individual track, you can see it. Individually you can play together. So for example, this first clip of the drums and the second clip of this track which I'm playing right now, randomly I can select the thing, I can play it, and with the help of what? With the help of a simple play button over here. But what if you have a structure ready on the first row like this? What I can do is I can just play them together by the button called scene. Now this is one of the feature which always needed in every looper. Looper is all total together, it will play everything. Same goes for the Logic. It is in a vertical manner. Whatever you see in the row wise, you see in the column wise in the Logic. And let me take it out on the other. What you see here is the scene in a vertical direction. Again, you are seeing this in a row manner or a horizontal direction. In Logic, you see everything is in a vertical direction. Let me just quickly drag and drop some piano, and Logic has loop, or the Logic loops of the. I'm just randomly bringing on something and dragging and drop. So as I told you that over here, whatever I'm having a musical data, and you can see over here. It's kind of looping every time, and the same thing which I wanted here. If I play this, I hope you can hear everyone. Just give a thumbs up because for this I didn't check it.
Yes, sir, we can.
Thank you. So you can see that next topic is what brings or what that understanding you need to do it to understand what is loop or live looping. Now live looping, forget about the word called live, just looping. What do you mean by that? A cyclic pattern every time it goes for numbers of time, which is, as I told you, irrespective of the time ruler. For how long you want to play, it depends on completely you. Depends on how long you wanted to keep it looping. Now second thing is, what is the sections or what is the pattern style and what is the duration of the pattern style. Now here you see what a pattern style. If I just consider the entire whole go to it, then what I can do is I can just turn on the metronome. Logic has the metronome by pressing K. 2. So if I just play only the metronome, just listen to the metronome quickly. Let me do a quick setting. So the downbeat which you hear, tack, then tuk, it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, again 1. So metronome goes 1, 2, 3, 4 every time. But you can see there is a pie chart which is revolving around in a clockwise direction, and again it starts with the second cycle exactly at the 12 o'clock. So it plays and it revolves and it ends there, second cycle starts, and I hope you can see something is going on. So I'm gonna do what? I'm gonna turn on. And why is this duration? This duration is all about this piano pattern, which is carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 1. It is a 16 pattern music. If you understand this, then looping is something really easy for you to understand. So over here you see the same thing: 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 15, 16, 1, 2, 3, 4. So every time 16 numbers of beats, it's starting with numbers of time. That is called the entire whole pie chart. Combines it, gives you the information over here how many times you keep on going. So then second cycles, then third cycles. So it's keep on going until you hit the stop. To this, if I
Guys, just stay tuned. Maybe it's just internet issue, so we'll just wait. We'll try and reach out. So just hold on for that.
sorry for the power fluctuation. So I'm back. Okay. So what I was actually talking about is all about what is the numbers of cycles and numbers of patterns or beat patterns. Now let me bring up quickly and let me turn off my video because how do you understand generally this relation? So a beat is equal to numbers of counts, right? Then when you deal with numbers of beats, time signature implies your something by something, right? X by Y. So X is your beat pattern. And this is all of us we've been studying about this, that what exactly these two factors is all about. The denominator part is your node value. Now come to the looper and sequencer. I'll be explaining both of them. So now what happens in looper? A looper is again, it's the time that you count, that for how many times the loop has to be playback. So that is the numbers of cycles. But in sequencer, what happens is, generally what happens, the sequencer follows the numbers of steps, which is called division. Now why sequencer? I'm explaining it because your normal piano editor, if I get into one of mine, any of the DAW, and if I get into any of the cell, for example, any MIDI editor shows you the same thing. So this entire whole media editor, you can consider it's a sequencer only. So what it does is it lets you trigger the node that you want to, and you design accordingly. And it keeps on looping till you select the bar. So this is a very general understanding. Sequencer follows the same rule, but what other things which you do with the sequencer is this. And I'm explaining you a sequencer in this way right now. That is, what is the number of cycles? In a sequencer, it deals with the same principle. What is the number of cycles? And this is your numbers of cycle, 1 to 2. If I want to prolong even more, in a general traditional software, you deal with the same thing. What do? You create a MIDI region and you keep on reducing it on that. And you see numbers of entire whole bar. So this is 1 bar. And if I double click on that, you see the divisions in it, and so on. So if I prolong, then I prolong. So generally in the sequencer, you do the same thing. You prolong the length. You prolong the entire whole numbers of bars and beats and division, you set it up in it. And you prolong what is the time division should be, whether by 4, by 8. So mostly sequencer has the time division rate as well to set it up. So whether you want to go speed up or whether you want to make it half down or whatever it is. Same goes here. You see it 1 by 16 node, 1 by 32 node, that is for the quantization. But over here, you see it, how you do the time divisions by selecting the snap to grid mode, 1 by 16. And you select everything, whatever you want over here. But in a better way to understand this, Ableton has a live loop grid mode, and live loop grid mode says everything in it. And what exactly it says is all about how you wanted to prolong your sets, whether you want to prolong till third or you want to prolong even more. That decides your musicality, whether you wanted to have up till 4th bar or wanted to have it up till 5th bar. So this is irrespective of individual clip. It does not apply to all the clips. If I go to another one, by default, it shows you just 1 bar. See? Now, if I want to prolong, you have the option to duplicate it. So it becomes 2 bar right now, duplicate it, 3 bar right now, 4 bar right now, 5th bar, and so on. And it keeps on duplicating with the numbers, and it says up till 31 bar, it's multiplied the entire whole value. So this is just to set your length. Now let's come to the example right now, where I'm going to do what? I'm going to perform this again. And when live looping feature generally gives you the option to record your entire whole performance. So over here, what happens is when I start playing the music, I can literally record this here. You can see previously I've recorded a lot of things. And all this I can just perform by holding down this bigger knob of the record button. You can see it. This is the one. So in Ableton Live, it says, once you start performing, make it sure that you should be any of this value. By default, it is 1 bar, because 1 bar is the simple value of a whole note, which is in a time signature 4 by 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But let's say you wanted to deal everything and in relation with music theory and a time signature. It is a little complicated to understand, but it is not. It is all about the matter of practice. If I choose 2 bar, you must remember, if I go with these drums and after some sequences I have to play the rim shot, then I definitely remember this particular mode is 2 bars right now. This global quantization, it's 2 bars. So that means if I hit the trigger of the rim shot, after 2 bars of the count, it will start playing the rim shot. That is what is all about the global quantization mode. It is not here, but also in Logic as well. You get the same thing in the live loop grid mode. Just all sections. With some other couple of features, cell end, smart pickup, and so on and so. So if you really understand music theory, and that is not probably, you definitely can connect yourself why music theory is so, and it's very important to understand at least the basics. So then you can understand these values. Now come to the little perceptional way of learning to it. I'm coming straight forward to the point right now. Now this I have, and let me just have a baseline to this piano, and I'm just simply typing a bass, and let me search. So generally what happens is you audition them. Randomly, I'm taking all this right now, just for the example's sake. And definitely, this is not making any sense because musicality, something has to come from your end. I'm just using the rules for just for the understanding of this. Ableton, most of you know what is the scenes and the clips doing. The same thing as I told you, there's a vertical direction. Now, if I have to go individually, I can just click on individual clips together. That's what is happening right now. So unlike Ableton, it has stop, it has pause, it has everything. I can reorder them by designing something. So you see that this baseline which I have, or let's say assume that I performed it, and it's still keep on going and it's not looping at all because I want this 4 patterns or this 4 MIDI notes to be cycled. So it's very simple. And how do you do that generally? Is looping these sections. And how do you do that? So it's generally you go to the back and you take your end looper end to bring back to the position. Up till that position you want to loop it. So it's an uneven looping. So this is what generally we get stuck. So what is this understanding is all about? A cycle, when you say, and a 4x4 time signature, it is a 4 counts with the 5 bars. Why 5 bars? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, all the 4 bars reaches till the 5th bar, starting from the first bar. If you understand this pattern, then over here, you see that up till 5th bar, it accomplishes 1 cycle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one more. That's a wrong chord because it's a over here, one more note. Now that serves a purpose. Now I'm sure that what exactly you're getting it all about. This is one cycle, this is one cycle. This cycle has 16 patterns, but this cycle just 4 patterns, 4 bars. So this has a lot of bars. This also has a 5th bar. You can see that I matched the entire whole sequential pattern over here by considering this electronic piano, which is going on 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 16th. The same thing, it goes here in the bass line 1 to 16th. So conclusion, a pattern does not needs to be matched, but also sometimes it has to be matched in this particular sequence or in this particular scenario. I could do this. But what if I am not into it? I just wanted to make speed of this. Or let's say I want to make it double speed to the baseline. So I can just do that by converting them into a lot of other things. That is playback, speed. Over here, I can make it as half value of 2 values. So if I just make it 2 values, you see that the entire whole cyclic pattern double the speed than the regular pattern of my metronome. So if I just turn on the metronome, it is the same pace, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it goes. It's just double the speed on the bass line. If I go the playback mode and if I'm just gonna speed, I'm gonna make it that's 4. It's gonna even double the speed than the second. So the bass becomes percussive. You must have a question that how the bass line has to go. 2 variant. One is as per the chord progression, another variant, percussive with the chord progression. So this is percussive, it is going on right now. If I just shorten out all the MIDI to the edge, all the edges, that is the end edges of all the MIDI notes. If I even double more speed, then you know what is the result is going to be. It's going to be 8th or 16 note speed. It definitely doesn't need it in this particular musical pattern if you really until unless go for some kind of a speed music. So this is a whole lot of understanding, and here I'm today not explaining anything musical, but just to understand how you deal with the live patterns or the looping patterns. Now, looping is something not understanding your musicality until unless you do some programming, and this programming generally they're involved in the cells, whether it is Ableton, whether it is Logic, or whether it is any devices which you use it in our day-to-day life. If you go to any device, probably you go to any looper, by default looper, as in the presentation which I was showing you. That is, over here you do the same settings here. You can see that the parameters here, it says tempo, then over there somewhere in this knob, I'm not sure about, but you can just set the rhythmatic rate, and that rate is nothing but, as I explained to you, the denominator part. Same goes for the Ableton, and in Ableton there is a lot of other features. Why Ableton is easing out everything, because in Ableton you have, it is in itself, Ableton itself is a sampler come a sequencer. The entire whole device, the entire whole software, it is a sampler come sequencer. If I double click on any MIDI notes or audio, even in audio, if you get into any audio, you get a little bit of features of live looping, and over here you see a lot of other options for quantization. Starting from that, what should be the length go and what is the pace of that and everything. So you can individually control to individual clips. It is not compulsorily that you need to do some kind of global settings for all the clips. Only global settings for all the clips are this quantization, 1 bar. So simple. Now come to the third phase of this workshop. That is when you need to understand what is the understanding of the time sense. Now, what is a time sense? When we go to a club or when you go to the pub or when you listen to the music, you either shake your head, foot tapping, or you do any kind of clap, or when you are in a big show is, or when you go and enjoy the show is, before back in those days before pandemic, what was happening when we go all to any kind of live concert, whether it is indie or whether it is pop or whether it is heavy metal stuff, mass fate and all that. How exactly things are happening down there? It's a general understanding of every human being. All of us, we have a simple understanding of a time. Whether key factor or a scale or a pitch is a different thing, because that is when you generally should have those kind of skills to understand or recognize a pitch. But time is something which is there within our body. We understand time. That is when time signatures for the 4x4 time signature, it is really understandable. When a musician versus when a normal layman and when a normal listener, the difference between both is a musician must know everything. A normal layman, they don't have to. They just understand the music until then it is a complicated music. It is a jazz music. It is some kind of an odd progressive track or experimental track we deals with, or whether it is lo-fi now becoming more even generalized. It is there since long back. Lo-fi genre has always been there back in those days. So when people that are trending into different style of music, they literally understand the theory in a perceptive manner. Like, it is not like something theoretical manner or normal layman they understand. They, in a perceived manner, they understand it. So my point here is to tell you is, whenever you need to understand what is time signature is, if I play this drums, 1, 2, 3, 4, I know this is what to go. And you can do this practice at your home as well. What time I should go with the rim, or what time I should trigger? That's the question. So answer is this. If your musicality has every quarter note or every 16 note to go, you can go and you can choose 16 note or 1/8. If your musicality has every 1 bar to go, or let's say if your musicality has it is every half minimum to go, and that is nothing but the half 2 notes to go, you can choose half notes. Now in this case, the drum is going. I'm gonna pitch in, let's say this arpeggiator. Okay, let me stop. 2, 3, go. 1, 2. At exactly third, after my count 1, 2, at the third, this guy has to start. This arpeggiator has to start, and which is this. Let's get started again. 1, 2. So the moment when I clicked my trigger on the third beat on my count, it started immediately. Why it started immediately? Why? Because I have chosen exactly half beat. But in the same case, if I go with the 1 bar, I've changed right now to 1 bar. Let me stop again, neutralize everything. The drum is going. 1, 2, 3. Again, one more time. All right. So one more time. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. So this arpeggiator is not starting at the third beat. It is exactly fulfilling and accomplishing all the last 2 bars, and it is playing. Conclusion: this global quantization mode helps any non-performer to understand that the entire whole pattern of the arpeggiator has to go exactly after 2 beats, not exactly on the third beat, even though I'm going to click at any point of time. That helps you because whenever you are single-handedly performing, and let's say exactly right after this, I have to sing something, I cannot definitely sing and click that at the same time, or else I'll lose my flow, right? That is when global quantization helps you. This is one of the segments for the looper. It is just like how a guitarist, he loops immediately and immediately get back to one of the lead piece. That probably example you could see it on the YouTube videos. So let's do the same example again. Let's say I want this arpeggiator, and right after that I'm going to sing something. So I'm gonna click this metronome, this particular arpeggiator at any point of time now. I'm not gonna click on the third beat regular time I was hitting before. I'm gonna head into, just to show you this example and just to make you understand, I'm gonna click at any point of time. So for that, I'm gonna do what? Metronome on. All you guys have to do it what? Pre-count it along with the beat, okay? So I'm gonna trigger this arpeggiator right after 4 bar. That means that this beat is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Then I'm going to trigger this. All right. So all of you guys get ready and start counting within your mind. So 1, 2, 3. Then the bass line anytime. Entire whole row together. So that's an entire whole lot of a performance which helps you by the help of global quantization mode. This is something completely not theoretical, but I'm explaining you so much. Why? Because this is not only the understanding of you trigger at any point in time, but also what time has to be triggered. And this pattern also implies a major role. For example, here the drums, it goes up till 2 bar. You can see that 1 and 2. So 2 bars up till 3 times. So that means 2 bar of a pattern. But the moment I get into the bass, so bass, you can see that it is not 2 bar, it is 4 bars. So irrespective of the drums, it goes for a longer time. It exactly double the time than the drums goes. Let's get into somewhere else. Pads. You can see the pads also the same timing. I have looped it. It is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It is also 4 bars. And you can see that this is what my looping section. Let me get into the rim shot. The rim shot is just for 2 bars. The snare is 4 bars. This arpeggiator, look at over here. The arpeggiator carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 bar. This is not arpeggiator, this is a pad. So let me solo this. So while the pad is going, assume that the song has to start with the pad. And when the pad is at this particular point, exactly where my cursor is right now, this playhead is right now, I can't start the drums. To sync all the elements, all the musical elements together, or a piece of music together on individual clips, global quantization performance mode is there. Assume that the global quantization performance mode is not there. It is none. Now let's get started with the same kind of sequences. And okay, so loaded. I'm gonna click on anything. It's all randomly going. It is not musical at all. It is not to the time. So that is what, which helps you to understand and to perform at any point of time. And you, in your virtual mind, and as I told, this is a matter of practice, Today you start, probably the next Saturday or Sunday, you can do a live streaming if you are a musician. Yes, that always goes in that way. Now, moving on to the fourth phase of the workshop. Over here, what you generally deals with, the rate of the time. And over here, what I'm going to show you with the Ableton and the Logic is shortly with the explanation of the fourth slides. And over here, you see a couple of things. Modular, performing without any time ruler or domain, but based on the number of cycles. And this number of cycle depends on your musicality, your structure of the music, your length of the music, which you are going to perform on the floor. Versus real-time linear time domain, which is generally a traditional way of recording, editing, cut, making music, making 4 bars of music, looping that, and so on, so which you do it. So real-time time domain is all about your general mode of recording and performing, which is nothing but this. So this is all of us we know, and in a traditional recording software, one after another, you create the softwares and you keep on making music. Couple of advantage and disadvantage while real-time performance, which I'll tell you. Advantage, I wouldn't say that's not a very negative word, but why advantage? If you are a person who always been wanting to do offline music, that is the traditional way, which is this, then it is definitely, you cannot definitely make, or you do not put some interest to make real-time music. But what real-time music brings you, or what real-time performance brings you, number one, anyways, you can do the performances because you're an artist, you are an artist. Number two, while you perform live music, or while you perform anything real time, you get into the humanizations. What do you mean by that? Whenever I am playing a drums, or let's say I'm playing some piano here, I am on the time. And I play on the time, and immediately I shift to the another recording. For example, I'm going to record like this, 1, 2. And in Logic, just like the Ableton, you have this 2 window over here. One is for the right side. You can see that it is glowing, and the one is for the left side. Now, left side is mostly meant for the live loop grid, and the right side is just meant for the editing window of the Logic. You can see both the windows together, and you can adjust them like this. This is what the new feature in Logic. Let me zoom out. I'm gonna delete this, or let me just do something here. And for that to do, I'm gonna shift to my second row. And over here, that is how, I mean, just like how you're able to you shift to individual scene like this, I'm moving, and probably I can choose anything that I want to go. Same goes in Logic. This is how the 1 scene, number 2 scene, number 3 scene. Quick interesting factor before I dive into the last topic of the phase, and how I can map them, because in the Ableton you can map it anything that you want, and for that you have push. All right, so what I'll do is I'll just map them across. So what I can do is I can, in any software, you have the control surface learning assignment, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my camera quickly. I hope all of you can see right now. I don't know how it, okay, fine. The keyboard is, that's fine. And I'm gonna share my screen as well. You can see both the thing right now. One thing is my Logic, another one is my keyboard. Over here, I have one keyboard which is meant for more deep integration. This is a keyboard for mostly Logic and Ableton, and a lot of other softwares as well, and so on. So you can, the mapping things is already there in it. And what I'm trying to do is I'm going to map all these individual scenes so that I can trigger at any point of time. So like this, how I'm triggering with my cursor. So all you need to do is very simple. Go to the expert view and quickly just click on that particular parameter you want to control. It is captured. You can see that again one more time. Whatever I'm putting on, it is recognizing on this window. And here I wanted to trigger any of this. So the first pad, you can see there's a pad on my keyboard. The first pad from a down section, which is glowing on blue color, I want to map that. So for that to do, learn mode should be turned on and click on that. Okay. Once it's click on, then all you have to do is, let me just reset here. Anytime you want to trigger the number 2 scene, you need to click on the first glowing blue color pad. Okay. So it is mapped. Learn mode is off. Okay. So the first, I already had assigned before. Even you can see that on this, in the first section as well, it shows the same thing. So why I'm doing this, because generally I don't want to hit my mouse and cursor. Okay, that's how it is. So the good part of splitting window and a good part of having these two features, why? Because both the Ableton and Logic, it has a feature of recording or capturing your entire whole performances on the arrangement view. Same goes here as well on the arrangement view. So in live performance, generally what happens, you ask your live engineer, probably those who are sitting with the computer, they can capture your multi trackings or of your entire whole band performances, or your vocal goes in one direction in one particular channel and your entire whole performances from your laptop goes into another channel. Both of them, you can just record it in a multi-tracking. But whether you do that or depending on a sound engineer who is in front of you as a first engineer who is doing all this, what you can do is you can ask yourself to do this. How? Logic gives you this information that you can trigger this record arrangement mode on, right? And whatever you perform here, it will start recording everything as a multi-tracking. Check it out. So for that to do, I need to enable this arrangement recording. This is called arrangement recording or enable performance recording. That's the name itself tells you the meaning. Then start recording right now. One. Nothing is recording until unless I hit anything over here. For that to do, I'm gonna hit the scene button here. The entire whole row to be played. So 1, 2, 3. So you can see that it's recording here. Stop. Apparently it is in a mute state. Why? Because this entire whole live loop grid mode of Logic is in an enable mode. Now, if I want to play that also, over here you can see there's two windows, this left and right arrow. Click on that. It's unmuted now. Now from here you can play together. Now apparently arrangement window is playing, performing. Same goes the global quantization mode here. You see 2 bars, and over here I'm stopping it, or I'm stopping it, anything. So this is one of the feature in Logic which is newly introduced, just like Ableton. In Ableton also you do the same thing. Whatever I'm performing here, I can start capturing on my arrangement. So this big fatty record knob. So it started recording here one more time. So let me do a proper performances. So what I'm going to perform here, whatever activity I'm doing, even it captures the automation without even turning on the automation. So remember this, guys. Live automation is something which is really needed. This is most of the times people, they have the doubt that whether Ableton or Logic or any software, it captures the entire whole performances. It is, yes. Always remember, when you capture your performance from a session view to the arrangement view, it is a kind of camera. It captures all the activities, whatever you do. Nothing is stagnant, nothing is fixed values. Whatever movement which you do, it captures as a movement only. So over here, I'm performing and I'm going to do some couple of movements of my fader. Check it out. So I'm going to trigger my drum first. So 1, 2, 3. So start recording here, you can see it. The drum is captured. Now I know I'm on my 1 bar, global quantization. So 1, 2, arpeggiator. You can see the arpeggiator started capturing. Now the bass line. 1, 2, 3, go. Now the pad sections. So why does lagging because of the Zoom? So, anyways, this is what my performance which I captured, my vocals, and over here all my other elements. You can see it. Now apparently it is disabled right now. There is a record back to arrangement, which is back to arrangement mode. What happens is whatever you captured, that is grayed out, meaning both the windows can't play together. So over here, I have enabled that right now. Whatever I've captured, I can hear that. I can convert them as an MP3. My performance is captured. I can now start selling or putting on my YouTubes or anywhere that I want. Same goes with Logic as well. Whatever you capture, you perform here, it captured over here right now. It's the same principle. You create an audio track as well. And I don't want to do right now. Probably you can do at your hand, but this is very simple. So as I told you, the last phase, which is fourth phase of this workshop, that what exactly you need to understand in terms of more in live performances. I would say if you are designing your pattern style, which I'm emphasizing on a lot, pattern style, you must understand what is your drums or what is your pianos, what is your bass line, having those patterns. Accordingly, you start them one after another. Until unless you know your patterns, you are sorted. You can play at any point of time that you want. And if you do not know, you've created something randomly and you keep on playing and playing and playing, but you have no idea where to start what. Why? Because you have no idea what is the numbers of cycles of pattern. Definitely, you definitely going to be flunking in, or you're going to fail in terms of performance. So that brings you only if you do the numbers of practice. That's what it's all about. I hope you understood and I hope you are getting it, but now you definitely can throw some questions if you have, so that I can just show you by doing that. Or anything that you have to know, that you want to know. So I guess you have understood, or Athav, if there is anyone or anything that anyone that's asking from the streaming as well, or probably we can wind up because
Yeah, the chat doesn't show any questions. So, guys, if there are any questions, you can unmute yourselves and you can ask directly. So we can have a quick Q&A. Just raise your hand or just unmute yourselves and ask a question if you have.
any scenario based, or if you want, probably because this something comes in with numbers of scenarios that you might face it, because individual personnels, yeah, those who are into only music, playing guitar, or some people they do the performances by singing, as I told you, or some people they are into piano, they want to do live accompany, has to go on the back. So probably I can just try to show you over here like that way.
Any doubts, guys? Please unmute, say yes, no, whatever. Just respond, guys. Don't be a silent viewer kind of. No question.
I guess they have no questions. Okay. Anyways, and I would say
सर सब
one thing
इजी
now.
तो
All you
समझने
have to
के
do.
लिए इसलिए
I'm sorry.
सर सब इजी था इसलिए सब अंडरस्टैंडिंग हो गई इसलिए कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है
अच्छा, ठीक है. But I'm sure those are watching right now, probably outside. How do they use live effects without the latency? So, is it, are you talking about now? There are two things apparently, Aditya. Is it streaming or just normal live performances? Everything is connected with one go. Now, let me just show you a couple of more things in terms of live performances. Effects, you can just put it real time. For example, in my vocals, I was recording. There was effects, but it was not recording. It is not printing anything. It is just processing that and there. For example, here I have a sense, right? And this A sense implicates to reverb. The B sense implicates to the delay, which I said already. And whenever you do any kind of effects, is whether on the track or whether you sense it, whatever it is, it's all goes real time without any kind of latency issues. Why there is no latency issues? Why? Because you have always two factors. One factor, whether you are dealing with a good configuration laptop or a system. Because for the live performances, see, immediately it started giving up because on the Zoom call, and it is only getting into the point of buffer size 512. But Ableton is capable, if I take it out, if I change this to my sound card settings, it is actually capable of 2048 samples. So in live performance, if your music is ready, you generally do not set this much of high samples buffer size. You set it to 512 or somewhere in between. And one average setting which you do, which is letting you play real time as well, real time processing. Along with that, everything is playing back on the same time. If it is streaming definitely not the case here. If you're really getting confused with streaming is completely different scenario altogether. Then second thing is, always any DAW deals with, you have your delay compensation, which reduce down everything. And reduce monitoring, this is one of the key feature. Why? Because Ableton, it is a live real-time performance, right? So whenever you are listening on the other side, the latency should be real time, should be low, no latency at all. It should be zero tolerance. So that means, I need to perform the same time, you need to listen the same thing, or else my lips and my performance will be unsynced. You would not enjoy that at all. So this is something when happens in, again, both the scenarios, that is streaming or whatever it is dealing with the same thing. Even you are on a stage show, and you are loaded up with this numbers of tracks with lots of inserts. You can see in my drums, there is a couple of things in it. In the rim shot, there is a lot of things in it. In the arpeggiator, there is a analog, there is a this effects, media effects is going on. So media effects, audio effects is whatever it is, you put it on the same track or the same channel. there are two kind of scenarios. One is your digital domain and the one is your analog domain. Now, analog domain where sometimes you get the delay and everything on the board, on your laptop, you do it, everything, you release that. Sometimes it depend on the engineer as well when you do the live performances. So it is all depends on different cases. It is not always been the same. So live effects is if you want to go real time performances, then that is when you use some kind of software like this, either Ableton Live or you have always Looper, just like I've showed you in the this thing. Mostly this device helps a lot. Back in those days, live performance used to happen in that way. This is one of the example of that AROS, but there's a lot of tons of devices out there in the market that you can go and buy. Specifically Korg and Roland, and right now a couple of more other equipments you can just definitely research on your base. That's what it's all about. There is a separate unit of live effects as well. If you are talking about, I'm giving you all the answers here. MIDI effects as well. Sometimes some MIDI effects you wanted to apply on. Sometimes you wanted to go XY pattern as well. Sometimes right now you deal with a lot of other features like XY patterns of designing cutoff and resonance. So Logic has also given you, suppose I'm live performing and I want to control some of my high cuts and low cut. All you have to do is this very simple. You put your multi-effects, that is your remix effects. So Logic itself, it gives you the remix effects over here. But this unit, you get it as a separate control in the market, which has a filter, which has a stutter, which has a step editor like this, which has a bit crusher, which has disc jogging like playback and jog down, jog up, and playback and stop, or tape stop like that. So for example, this is what the performance is going on. Let me share my screen. One more time. That's a basic thing which I'm just want to show you this. And this all controls, you can do it with mapping as well. So the same kind of controls you do it with Korg, iOS, effects, and there is a couple of more company which I'm not right now recalling, but yeah. That doesn't implicate here. So it has to be on the time. Now, right now it is not happening. I'm clicking on the time, but because of that, Zoom is the thing. So if that's your question, you got your answer. Live performance is the same thing. It doesn't ever give you any kind of latency issues. In the live performance, if you're really asking me that, mixer board plays a major role there. If you're really talking about the proper live performances, when a laptop is a separate unit, your live effects is a separate unit. Or irrespective of laptop, we are not at all using any DAW for your live performances like Ableton, FL, or let's say even Logic or whatever it is. Let's say Boiler Room, you might have spoken about it. Guitar, and they have a lot of loopers completely racked on, and there is other side, there is a live effects as reverse and delays going on. Latency, if you're asking latency, it has never been tolerable. It has never been zero at all. It's a myth. If even though you get a UAD, Apollo Twins, or if you get into any other sound cards, which is saying you zero latency, it is not the truth. There is always been little latency, which you generally feel so. Because any in and out, it always have a little latency issues. Just to make it everything on the time, there is lots of cards you're using. That is again a whole lot of a different topic about the DSP, which we're talking about. So in the live performances, laptop is the only unit which you're dependable on. That is why most of the time when you see people that are using two laptops, for example, I always give this example of Paul Van Dyke. He used two different computers. One is for the performance, another one is for just his controllable parameters, another one is his console, which is he's doing it. You can just YouTube them and you can just watch. He do a live performance arpeggiator creating on the keyboard, capturing that as a looper. It keeps on going and he syncs up everything together because all they are connected with the 5-pin DOI1 BD cable. The MTC works over there. So MIDI protocol, DSP protocol, all together, it works when you're dealing with such kind of thing. But when you don't deal with laptop and when you don't deal with any kind of ADA, it's just hardware to the hardware. It is all typical connection of MIDI only, and MIDI everything makes everything real time, which is your 5-pin MIDI, not USB. Do you suggest using input quantization live? Of course, yes. Now, I could not show that why because another workshop where I'll be just performing and not showing, and then very soon that workshop is coming in next month or probably anytime soon. So what I'll be showing you virtually how you can control having real-time performances quantization. What is the meaning of it? That is when I can show you. I can able to show you that what is mean by real-time performance and quantization. And the meanwhile, what I'll show you is here this. For example, it's a better example. More than this can't be a better example. For example, I'm on the Zoom right now. It keeps on giving me latency, right? And over here, I have my drums. And I'm changing my sample rate to say 128 samples because it's resolving out my little latency. That's fair enough deal. And I'm gonna record this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So one more time. Let me turn on my metronome. Keep on going. 1, 2, 3. Somewhere I was going off timing. All right, I'm playing on the time, but the Zoom is not letting me play on the time. So you can see that the MIDI has reached to lots of uneven timing over here. And normal process, what do you do? After you capture it, you do quantization, right? And this is how you do it. So it goes to the nearest value. And this quantization also is not a right quantization. It takes to the nearest value, but actual quantization is this. And somewhere here and there, definitely you need to do that. By turning on the recording quantization, and how do you enable that in Ableton and how do you enable that in Logic? I'll show you both. Go to edit, quantization to quarter note or any of the values over here. So I need 16th note, and I'm sure, I don't know whether it is going to happen. Still, it is going to definitely would give me a little issues. Did you see something happen now? It's quantized automatically. So what is the purpose of this? The moment you loop back off, or the moment your purpose is filled, or the moment your cycle is done and you move next to the second one. So I'll just show you the scenario the same again. I'm immediately hitting to the baseline after some 1 bar. So and in live performance mode, you can turn on activate one more time. So did you see that even though my recording is off and I have a push on the right side and I just turn off the record off and it keeps on playing with together quantized, because in live performance, Until unless you have a mixer board, you can route your metronome to a third and fourth channel for the click track. You cannot publish or you cannot throw your metronome to the public. It's become a studio environment. Definitely you do not do that. So randomly, whatever we perform, it should be on the quantization. So most of the live performance happens by turning on the quantization mode on to any of those values, most commonly used by 16 nodes quantization, because generally you do the 16 nodes quantization. How much latency is tolerable? Method, you got it. Okay, fine. Tolerable, as in I wouldn't say it's a myth, as I told you again. So yeah, that's your answer only I gave you. I hope you understood. Connection, the only thing. Connection means you would not see any live performances connected without any 5-pin meeting. And I hope what you mean by 5-pin meeting, you understand. So without that, it's very possible because LTC plays a major role. VD time clock plays a major role. And once that's hooked up, all your devices will be on time. Even your external synthesizer, you are using it for that also. Okay, that's what it is. Aditya, you got your answer. So any other questions, or we can done for the day? And I hope it was really helpful for you guys. Then I would like to say thank you so much for being here, and we will jam. So let me announce this for you guys. Next month, CMedio is announcing its Link Jam. So once you start practicing, once you're on the board, and probably when you are individually going to the campus, you can do practice with your Ableton Live. So Link Jam is that protocol which goes on that. So you can research on that. What is a Link Jam? It's a link button on the Ableton Live, which plays everything, and it binds multiple devices linked to the same protocol or the same Wi-Fi network. So that I'm playing the drums, someone of you will play the bass, another guy will play the arpeggiators, pads, or piano, something. Another one must be in the guitar, he will play something all the time. All of us will be on the same time because it binds the MIDI time clock. That means whatever I have the tempo, you will have the same tempo. If you increase, I will get increased, same ways, other will be get increased. This is one of the great protocol by Ableton Live, introduced by first Ableton Live only, the company itself. Whereas it binds other computer having Ableton Live with turn on the link, where all the computers are on the same network topology or the same network, which is a Wi-Fi. So that's what is going to happen because this workshop relates to that. And before that, one more guide and one more workshop I'll do it, then we'll definitely make a practice to it. And you will do a proper link jam, which is having a proper shoot to that. And we will be having a YouTube live as well. So prepare yourself, get hands-on on your Ableton Live, which is definitely going to be a helping hand for you for your live performances in the future, in your online streaming as well as what. Till then, thank you. With another workshop. Thank you, Athar. Thank you to CMedio, and thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
That's it.